There we go. Okay. So, all right. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about programs in the School of Education. So what can you study? We have programs that lead to certification or licensure. So we have teacher certification programs, programs leading to certification as school psychologists or school leaders, and we have a program that leads to licensure as a mental health counselor. We have a lot of programs in other areas of education. So I know a lot of us, when we think about education, we automatically think teaching and teaching in a K-12 classroom. But we have a lot of programs in other areas of education, including educational policy and leadership, higher education, educational psychology, curriculum and instruction, international education, and more. And then we have certificate programs, which are lower credit programs in a specialized area that a lot of people use for professional development or career advancement. And this next slide is going to look a little overwhelming, but this is a list of all of our programs sort of broken down into some useful categories. So I mentioned that we have programs leading to teacher or leader certification or licensure. So we have programs that lead to initial teacher certification. We have programs for those who already hold initial teacher certification and are looking for a master's degree that would lead to professional teacher certification. We have the programs leading to certification in school psychology, or our certificate programs leading to certification as a school building, district, or district business leader. And then we have our master's in mental health counseling. And also, as you'll notice, some of these are highlighted in yellow, and those are programs that are either completely online or have a fully online option. And I'll talk a little bit more about that too. We have masters in a lot of other areas of education, which you'll see right in this middle column, and some certificate programs. And then we have several doctoral programs. And I know that a lot of people who signed up for this session are interested in a PhD program. And so we have counseling psychology, curriculum and instruction, educational policy and leadership, educational psychology, and literacy. And then I mentioned those lower credit, they're typically around 12 to 15 credit graduate certificate programs. And we have those in some targeted areas that, like I mentioned, these are great options for professional development, career advancement, or just to learn about a specific topic. So let's talk a little bit about online study. So I mentioned that. So many of our programs are offered either fully or partially online. You can find out which of our programs are offered online on our website. And I think it's always worth noting that the School of Education programs are ranked number 8 in online programs in the country. And we've had online programs for decades, actually, and offered online courses for a very long time. And of course, this has become a really popular way to study, particularly since COVID, when it was our only option. But some students found that worked really well for them. So there are different types of online study. There are fully online programs, and those programs can only be completed online. And then there are programs with a fully online option where the program can be completed fully online, but there are options for in-person courses. And then there are partially online programs where some, but not all of the program is completed online. I did think it was worth mentioning that regardless of program, there's a high likelihood that you would be able to take at least some online courses, even though for some of our programs, the majority of the courses are in person. There's still often the option to take online courses if you'd like to explore that. And then I also thought it was worth mentioning that for our online courses we offer them in both synchronous and asynchronous format, but for the synchronous courses, they are typically scheduled after typical work hours. And most of our online synchronous courses are offered via Zoom. So part-time and full-time study is something else that I thought was worth talking about. Some of our programs require full-time study. They operate on a cohort model where everybody starts at the same time and they move through the program at the same pace. While others are much more flexible and can be completed part-time. You can take a course one semester, 2 or 3 courses a semester. It's really up to you. Keeping in mind that at the graduate level, 9 credits is considered full-time. You can explore a program's graduate bulletin, which tells you basically the course requirements for that program, and then search the schedule of classes to gauge a typical schedule for someone in your program. If you are completing a program part-time, there is a statute of limitations that starts the semester that you matriculate into a program, and that's 6 years for a master's program and 8 years for a doctoral program. For most of our programs open to part-time study, courses are offered in the evenings to accommodate working professionals and the typical workday schedule. And that's the case for synchronous online and in-person courses. And then of course, there are asynchronous online courses as well. So now we're going to move on to talk a little bit about the application, the components of your application. So just some general information. All information, and some other great information about using the online application portal is available through the graduate school. And I'm just going to pull up their website so that you guys can get a feel of what that looks like. So their website is extremely helpful in guiding you through the application process. This is the graduate school website. And if you click on admissions and then apply to a degree or certificate program, they actually have a lot of links that sort of walk you through the whole process and sort of provide answers to some frequently asked questions about the different components of an application. So I think that this is a really great place to start. This is also where you create your application, your online application portal login information, and get started on the application if you haven't done so already. You can find application requirements for the particular program that you're interested in on the main program page. And so I'll show you when I say main program page, this is, I have it saved as a bookmark, but it's albany.edu/education/programs. And it lists all the programs in the School of Education. And they're split up by doctoral, master's, and certificate programs. And I'm just going to click on one so that you can take a look and see the type of information that you might find on a program page, including information about the program, just like a description of the program, information about the requirements for the program. And then at the bottom, there's always information on deadlines and application materials that are required for the program. And there's also always going to be a link to the graduate bulletin. And that was what I mentioned has the specific degree requirements. And there's a graduate bulletin for each of our degree programs that will have information on the specific coursework that can be used to complete that degree. So there's a wealth of information there if you had some more specific questions about those aspects of a program. So let's go back to where we were. So most of our programs require that you send transcripts. A common question that I get, I was a UAlbany student. Do I need to formally request a transcript? The answer is no. The registrar's office will send that right to graduate admissions. You can upload an unofficial transcript to your online application portal, your unofficial transcripts from other institutions, but official transcripts are required upon admission. Transcripts can be either mailed from your previous institutions or emailed based on how that institution sends their transcripts. Letters of recommendation are I think pretty much required for all of our graduate programs. And those are submitted directly through the online application portal. So basically you will provide contact information for all of your recommenders. And then the online system will send them an email requesting their letter and giving them instructions on how to submit that. We always recommend that letters of recommendation be specific to the program that you're applying to whenever possible, meaning if you have a letter of recommendation that was for a job, I would recommend asking your recommender to edit that so that it's more tailored to the program that you're applying to. So why would Alyssa be a great fit for the Master's in Educational Policy and Leadership in particular? So whenever that's a possibility, we strongly encourage that. Many of our programs ask for letters of recommendation from professors. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but one of the main reasons is so that they can speak to your academic capabilities. You are entering a graduate program, and so it's important to know that you have the potential to be successful at that level of study. If you have been out of school for a prolonged period of time, this is a question that we get a lot, professional references are acceptable. But can those recommenders potentially speak to characteristics or skills that would make you a successful graduate student and or highlight your academic potential? So can they speak to your timeliness or your writing skills or the things that would make you a good student that without a letter from a professor, they might not hear? So can you talk to your recommenders and talk about that? So the use of a professional reference is acceptable if you've been out of school for a prolonged period of time, but this option should not be utilized if you are a recent graduate. It could weaken your application. It could raise some questions as to, this person is just graduated. Why don't they have a recommendation from a professor? So that's an important distinction I wanted to make. Make sure to give your recommenders plenty of notice, as well as a hard deadline ahead of the application due date. So if you know your application is due December 15th, maybe give your recommenders a deadline of December 1st, just so that you're in case there's any sort of flexibility on their part of handing in the recommendation letter, you have a little bit of wiggle room there. Again, something that a lot of our applications require is a statement of goals or some other type of written requirement. Why is that? So for us, it's to determine your fit for the program, to see what you can offer the program, and also to evaluate your writing skills. And then for you, it allows you to highlight your background and skills and what you hope to get out of the program. So some of the programs will state a length that they're hoping for, and it's a tough question to answer as far as what the length should be, but your writing should be purposeful and to the point. So there shouldn't be unnecessary details. It should just sort of cover the things that are important to note in a statement of goals. Something that I think is also very important when you're writing a statement of goals is to do your extensive research on the program you're applying to. So get to know, the strengths of the program and talk about why are you looking at this program in particular? What type of model do they follow? Why is that a good fit for you? There are also many helpful online resources to write a statement of goals, and I recommend that you explore those. And then your previous institution's career center may also have some great resources. And a lot of times they are more than happy to help alumni. And the same goes for any program that requires a resume. So a resume may be another written component that your program requires, and that might be something that your previous career center might be able to help with. The PI Center can't review resumes or statements of goals, but like I said, there are a lot of really great resources out there that can sort of guide you as to what should be in those. Some of our programs require teacher certification in order to enter. And so in looking at this list of programs on the left, these programs require that you hold teacher certification. So if you are interested in one of these programs, especially, so I'm talking about mostly these ones at the top that are under this section called approved teacher preparation programs. If you're interested in one of these programs and you do not currently hold the certification that's over here in gold, then you're not eligible for that program. And there may be a program that you are eligible for. So that would be something to reach out to me individually, and I'll give you my contact information at the end. But then these down here, related masters, I just want to note, you can enter any of these 4 related master's programs without holding teacher certification. Just know that they will not lead to a teacher certification. These, when you already hold an initial certification, they can help you to earn your professional certification. But if you do not hold teacher certification, they do not provide that. Another question that we get very often is about entrance exams. I think something that's always helpful is the website will always be updated. So the program page, like the one that I showed you, that main landing page for a program will always be correct if it says that it requires an entrance exam. So a lot of people are like, oh, I saw on the website that this requires the GRE. Is that true? Yes, it's true. These are our programs that currently require the GRE. And for these programs, there is no waiver for the requirement. A lot of people ask, what is the minimum GRE score, or what score do I need to get into the program? There is no minimum score, but I do know that the ETS, so ETS is the organization that hosts the GRE exams. ETS has some averages on their website, and they even, I believe, break down those averages by career field. So there may be an average score for education, and that can give you a good idea of where your scores fall. But I also think that it's worth noting that the GRE is part of your application. And for all of our programs, students are evaluated and their applications are considered holistically. So if you're concerned about that your GRE score isn't exactly where it needs to be, you can work hard to make the other aspects of your application very strong. So your letters of recommendation, your statement of goals, maybe you have a really strong academic record or GPA from your previous institutions, that works in your favor as well. They're looking at you as a whole person, where the GRE is just part of what they're considering. The GRE scores that you submit must be valid. So there's a 5-year expiration. So if you took your GREs longer than 5 years ago, you'll have to retake them. And then this is, again, the ETS. So it's ets.org for information on taking the GRE. I believe that they have still an at-home option for the GRE. So that might be something that might help to make the GRE a little bit more accessible if the program that you are interested in requires it. A couple of things to note is a couple of our programs have waived the GRE requirement. So the school psychology, both the CAS and the PsyD, have waived the GRE requirement for fall 2023 admission. The GRE has been waived through spring 2023 for the PhD in education, policy, and leadership. And it has also been waived for admission to the PhD in literacy for the fall 2022 semester. Which basically means that outside of those times, the GRE is still required. And that's as of today. So, it's always possible that some of these waivers could be extended. So that's why it's always important to continue to check the program pages for the most up-to-date application deadlines and admission requirements. There is a $75 application fee for degree and certificate programs that you pay with a credit card through the online application portal. And that should be your last step. So you're not able to go back and edit your application or upload new materials once you've paid. So you might just want to do a once over before you submit that payment. Application fee, that's supposed to say application fee waivers are available for some students. And you can visit the graduate school website for more information on whether you're eligible for an application fee waiver. Application deadlines, like I mentioned, are listed on the program's main page. A lot of our programs have what's called rolling application deadlines, but we still think it's important that you consider the admission committee timeline. So we say to allow at least a few weeks before the beginning of the semester you're applying for. So submit your application a few weeks ahead of the beginning of the semester you're applying for. If you are a PhD applicant, we expect that you give ample time because they really do give considerable amount of time reviewing PhD applicants because of the nature of the program and wanting to get a whole picture of the applicant. I did get asked a lot of questions about acceptance rates, and those do vary by program. So it's hard to sort of nail down one acceptance rate. A lot of our programs have hard deadlines. For fall 2022 study, I happen to know that a lot of programs' deadlines have already passed. So what do you do if you've decided that there's a program at UAlbany in the School of Education for you, but the application deadline has passed and it only has a summer start or it only has a fall start and you have to wait a whole year? that's where I wanted to talk to you guys about non-degree study, which is an amazing option. So what is non-degree study? Non-degree study allows you to complete up to 12 credits without applying to a degree granting program. Students can select from eligible courses within the School of Education to do this. So why pursue non-degree study? What are the benefits of this? First, it allows you to explore graduate school and verify your interest in a program. So taking a couple of courses might let you know, like, this is really for me. A huge benefit is that it allows you to start making progress toward a degree program while you're still working on your application or while you're waiting for an application deadline to approach. So basically, you can make sure that you are taking these non-degree courses that would then count toward the degree that you hope to apply for. It's worth noting that taking non-degree courses does not guarantee your acceptance into the program that you're interested in. Of course, if you do really well in the courses, you know, that has a positive impact on your application, but it does not mean that you're accepted into the program. Another great thing is it allows you to make connections with faculty from a program, potentially even use one of the faculty members as one of your recommenders if you are able to build a relationship with them. Like I mentioned, it can help to provide evidence of academic success as you prepare to apply to the graduate program. And it also, even if you're not considering applying to a degree program, it allows you to explore a personal or professional interest in a specific topic. So I really want to learn a little bit more about finance in higher education because I think that would help me in my job. There's a class I can take non-degree, and then maybe I decide I don't want to take any more classes, and maybe I do, but that's sort of how non-degree study can be really flexible to fit your needs. So how do you apply as a non-degree student? The graduate school is also where you apply for non-degree study. There is non-degree study at the undergraduate level, so I just want to make sure that when you're applying for that, you are making the distinction. So if you're looking to apply to a non-degree graduate program, this is what the website will look like. And essentially, you will select a non-degree program from the School of Education. And I'll talk a little bit about those. So you can submit the required application materials for your non-degree program. I will say they are typically far less cumbersome than a full application to a program. So sometimes they don't require a letter of recommendation. Some of them require only a transcript from your highest degree earned and a $20 application fee. Some of them require some written statements. Each one has a different requirement. So you'd have to take a look, but they're not as involved as the degree applications. And the turnaround time on decisions is typically relatively quick. If you are someone who is attending this session and you're interested in non-degree study, you can email the PI Center, pi.center@albany.edu once you begin your application, and we will waive your application fee for you. Keeping in mind that fall courses begin August 22nd. So if you're thinking about non-degree study for the fall, that start date is just a little over a month away. What are my options for non-degree programs in the School of Education? So there is counseling psychology, curriculum and teacher education, educational policy and leadership, educational psychology, literacy or reading, school psychology, and special education. Sometimes choosing the right degree program can be tricky. So let's say you're interested in childhood education, taking non-degree courses in the area of childhood education. You would think, I'm going to go to the curriculum and teacher education non-degree. Well, our childhood education program is in our literacy department. So you would actually want to apply literacy non-degree. So if you need some help deciding which non-degree program would be right for you based on your goals and the program that you're most interested in, please reach out to the PI Center and I can sort of direct you to the right one. And like I mentioned, each one of these programs has its own application requirements. Can I take any course in the School of Education as a non-degree student? Although there are several courses available to non-degree students, some courses are closed to students who are enrolled in a program. Some courses will require instructor permission. And if you want the courses that you are taking to count toward a degree program, let your non-degree advisor know. Let them know, I'm planning to apply to the Master's in Higher Education. I want to make sure that the courses that I'm taking will count toward that program if I am accepted once I apply. Along with that, you may not be able to take some of the required courses as a non-degree student. So you might not be taking Introduction to Counseling because that course may be reserved and full of students who are in the mental health counseling program. But what you may be able to do is explore some elective courses that would count toward the degree. And so there is a little bit of flexibility in taking the so like even if a lot of the counseling courses are full, which they do tend to be full, you may have the opportunity to take some courses that would count as electives, and they still may be very much in your areas of interest. Also wanted to say again that taking courses as a non-degree student does not guarantee admission to the program when you do apply. This is a highlight of the courses that our departments wanted to emphasize would be good for non-degree study. So you'll see here, literacy, teaching, and learning. This is where these are our 4 departments. So there's literacy, teaching, and learning, educational and counseling psychology, educational policy and leadership, and educational theory and practice. Those are our 4 departments in the School of Education. This literacy, teaching, and learning department is where our childhood, early childhood, literacy, reading degrees, that's where they're all housed. Educational policy and leadership, we've got a lot of really great options for non-degree students. That's where our ed policy and leadership degrees, higher education, international education, management and leadership degrees, that's where those are all housed. Educational and counseling psychology has 4 different divisions within that department. So that's where you'll find educational psychology, counseling psychology, school psychology, and programs that are related to special education. Many courses in educational psychology, so those are EPSY courses, are available for non-degree study, but the department wanted to highlight a seminar in learning engagement. And then the educational theory and practice is actually where our curriculum and instruction, or curriculum development and instructional technology program, is housed. That is where our secondary education, which is a teacher certification program, is also housed. And so there's a lot of great options there as well that have to do with teaching. And so that they could be a great option for someone interested in teaching. This is not an exhaustive list. So if there's a course that you know that you're interested in exploring non-degree study, you can always reach out and see if that course is full or accepting non-degree students. But these were the courses that the programs thought would be a great fit for, or that the departments thought would be a great fit for non-degree students. A lot of questions that were submitted for tonight's session had to do with funding graduate studies. So as I'm wrapping up my presentation, I did just want to touch upon that. So there are School of Education specific scholarships. They are offered each year to students. They're typically donor funded and they don't typically cover the entire cost of tuition. But they are available just to School of Education students. So think about a smaller application pool. And then, so those are typically, I think the applications are typically sent out at the end of the fall semester, so November or December. Applications are usually due in January or February, and then students will know by the end of the year if they're a recipient of a scholarship that year. And you can apply every single year, even if you were a past recipient. And you can also apply if you are working on an application. So that's also important to note. There are also university-wide scholarships that you can find out about through the graduate school. But for all information about the cost of the program, I had some questions about online versus in-person tuition, international student tuition versus the typical tuition. Those are all best answered by our financial aid, student financial services office. They have a really great, they have great information on their website. So graduate programs operate on a per credit rate. And so they have some great tables that will tell you information about the per credit tuition rates for the current semester. So you'll be able to see based on how many credits you think you'll take, whether you're in state or out of state. And then the graduate school has some great information on how to fund graduate studies, including information on tuition and fees, federal and state financial aid, tuition, scholarships, assistantships, fellowships, and other opportunities for funding your graduate studies. And then I also have the email address for student financial services listed, which is just SFS for student financial services at albany.edu. They are the go-to place for questions about anything cost, financial aid, tuition related. And then there's the PI Center. So as I mentioned, I'm the director of the PI Center, and we provide information on our graduate programs like I did tonight. But if you have specific questions, really in-depth questions about the program that you're interested in, or helping to discern between a few different programs, I highly recommend that you reach out to us individually. We are located in Catskill 101, so you can always pop in. We also have virtual Zoom hours Monday through Friday. The hours differ, so you can check the PI Center website to see when the hours are each day. But basically, it's just me sitting on Zoom waiting for somebody to pop in and chat and answer questions. And then we also monitor our email very closely. I'm proud of our quick response rate to the emails that come through our office. And then we also have information sessions just like tonight's information session on specific programs. So I know there were some people interested in the mental health counseling program. That deadline is in December. So we typically have an information session ahead of that deadline. And same goes for most of our programs. We'll pay attention to when those deadlines are and offer an information session where you can come hear from faculty in the program, ask your specific questions, and get some inside tips and knowledge about the program. So that is everything that I have. And I think I saw some things coming through on the chat, but if there are any questions, please feel free to enter those in the chat, or even just unmute yourself and feel free to ask me any questions that you have. Let me just see what we have in the chat. Okay. Oh, and we do have a staff member here from graduate admissions who did want me to mention that if you are applying for non-degree study, then you are not eligible for financial aid. So those are typically paid out of pocket. All right, so we do have a question. Where can I see possible schedules for how students space out their courses for part-time study? Which time of year for different courses are offered? So that's a great question. I'm going to just share my screen and sort of show you how you can get an idea of that. So if it's a program that's sort of self-paced, that you move through at your own pace and take courses in the order that makes the most sense for you, I would recommend going to the program page for that program and then exploring the graduate bulletin. So let's go back to that master's in higher education as an example. What you can do is take a look at the graduate bulletin to see the types of courses that are required for that degree. So you'll see a list and you'll notice that they're all in the same department. So this EPL is for educational policy and leadership. And then what you can do, I'm just using Google for this, is take a look at the current and upcoming schedule, or even look at a past schedule for a semester to get an idea of what it looked like. Every semester is going to look different. There are courses that are offered, always offered in the fall and always offered in the spring. But we don't guarantee that the course will be offered in the same format. So it may have been offered online this fall, but it may be offered in person next fall, depending on the program that you're applying to, whether or not it's a fully online or not. And then but it will give you a pretty good idea of what that schedule could look like. So if we're looking at educational policy and leadership courses, we're going to search the schedule of classes for fall 2022. We're going to look at graduate courses only, and the course subject is EEPL. And we'll scroll down and hit search, or hit submit rather. And this will give you, you can take a look and see. So EEPL 600, this fall, that is offered on Mondays from 4:30 to 7:20. It looks like it's online, and so that would be a synchronous online course. So this will give you an idea of the time and the way that the course is offered, the modality of the course. Then you can look, so you select 2 courses from the support discipline category for this degree. So you can take a look and see, how are all of these courses offered? Which ones are offered in person? Which ones are offered online, depending on what you're most interested in. And it can give you an idea of what that program might look like for you. Does that help a little bit? I hope so. Let's see. How would I go about, who would I speak with about getting a teacher certification so I could be in the program that I am looking for? So if you're interested in teacher certification, I would reach out to the PI Center. So reach out to us, let us know if you currently hold a teacher certification. And if so, in what area? And if you don't hold teacher certification at this time, make sure you mention that, and we'll let you know exactly which programs you're eligible for and let you know a little bit more about those programs. So reach out to me, and I'm just going to put my PI Center email address right in here so that everybody has it. Next question that we got. Deadline for the bachelor's, master's in mental health counseling program. For mental health counseling, Christy, can you jump on for this one? December 15th is the application deadline for typical students, but what about combined students?
So if you're interested in applying for the combined program, what I'd recommend is reaching out to Dr. Gallo. He oversees the program. Depending on the semester, there may be flexibility if you are an applicant for a bachelor's, master's. So his email is J as in Jason, Gallo, Gallo at albany.edu. And Alyssa just put that in the chat. So reach out to Dr. Gallo again, and let him know that you're interested in the bachelor's, master's program. Also let him know which semester you're interested in, because that would also cause the deadline might be varied depending on if you're interested in starting in the spring, if you're interested in the fall, or in the summer. So Dr. Gallo would be the best person to tell you what the most updated deadline for that particular combined program would be.
Thank you. Great question. So if applying for non-degree, would I be able to receive confirmation prior to the start to know if the credits would be able to be applied to a program later? So you can work with an advisor to let them know, I'm planning to apply to X program, and I want to be sure that any courses that I take as a non-degree student would count toward that program if I am accepted. So that's a conversation that you can have with your non-degree advisor. And also you can always look in the graduate bulletin. So like you saw here, the graduate bulletin for the higher ed masters, you can know that EEPL 657, if that's the course that you choose to take non-degree, it's listed here as a program, as an option for one of the program requirements. So you can always double check the graduate bulletin to know if the course that you're taking would count toward the degree program you're interested in. How would I go about requesting permission numbers for grad courses in the fall and that haven't had professors assigned to them? That's another great question. You can reach out to the PI Center, and I can either direct you to the department chair or the division director, who can definitely find the right person to give you the permission number. So that's only if you've been accepted as a degree student or a non-degree student. Students who are not either in a degree program or accepted for non-degree study can't receive permission numbers. So you have to be either enrolled in a program or accepted for non-degree study. Let's see. if there's a deadline of August 1st, is it too late to start an application if I haven't reached out to those who I want to write letters of recommendation? That's a great question. I think it depends on who you're asking for your letters of recommendation. So if it's people that you know well, and if you can explain the situation, listen, I'm really interested in this program. The deadline is fast approaching. Are you able to provide me a letter by August 1st? And just being considerate of their time and asking if that's a possibility. So sort of reaching out and getting your feelers out there to see if that would be possible. I would go right ahead and start working on your portions of the application right now. So working on your statement of goals, working on getting everything filled out in the online portal. Those would be my recommendations. Is there a deadline for non-degree study? Another very good question. There isn't a deadline for non-degree study. Like I mentioned, the turnaround time is typically pretty quick for non-degree study because the application, there's not a whole lot to read on those applications. But I would say try to get your non-degree applications in at least a week before the semester starts. Christy, is that fair?
I can speak.
Or Sean, yeah, Sean, can you maybe that? Yes, thank you.
Yeah, normally we'd say about a week in advance would be best, just because administratively it takes several days to get the application built into our main system, so you're able to enroll. So the earlier you can do it, the more quickly you'll be able to enroll in those courses. And if you don't apply until the start of the semester, then you can really fall behind on the administrative sides of stuff that we really can't push through quicker.
Exactly.
And I agree. And also the courses you may be interested in may fill up, and you want to make sure that, if you're interested in a specific course, that you can get into that course. And if you are admitted, there still is a process beyond that also that it can take a day or so, and then reaching out to your advisor to get your advisor verification number also. So to give yourself as much buffer as possible would be my recommendation. And also, again, it gives you a better chance of getting into the classes that you specifically are interested in.
Thank you, guys. I should have asked, is there anything that either of you wanted to add from either of your perspectives that I didn't cover today? Oh, good, Chrissy, I must have covered it all. Thanks, guys. Does anyone else have any other questions? Like I said, if you have very specific questions to your own individual circumstances or about a particular program, I would say either email us or use our Zoom hours and we can have a chat and we can talk a little bit about your specific questions. I don't see any other questions coming through the chat. So I will just assume that everyone is ready to get on with their evening. I do want to say thank you for joining us tonight, for spending the last 45 minutes with us and learning a little bit about our programs. And I hope you guys got some great information from the session and learned something that might help you to think about completing your application or think about non-degree. So yeah. I did see one more question come in for someone who's interested in a PhD program. Is it possible to do field work in India? So it depends on the program that you're in, but research and field experiences in another location are certainly possible with our programs. A lot of students even those students, international students who come here and take courses here, some of them do go back home to do their research and even some internship experiences. Which program would I recommend? So if you're going to be completing the whole PhD program remotely, the online options that we have for PhD programs are our programs in both literacy and curriculum and instruction. But I do think that one of the most important things to consider when you're considering doctoral study is the content of the doctoral program and your particular research goals and your particular professional goals. So while we do have online programs, if they don't suit your needs as a student, I wouldn't recommend that program to you. So you can always follow up and email me and you can tell me a little bit about yourself and tell me about what your goals are and what it is that you'd like to do. And I can give you a recommendation based on those things. All right. Again, thank you all for being here, and hopefully I will hear from some of you. Yes, thank you very much.